Hello, and welcome to Hey, I Like, the podcast where we talk about all the things that make our neurodivergent brains go bonkers.
Brain go brrr.
Yes, exactly. I am your host, Jess. I use she, they pronouns, and I am joined today by my beloved sibling. Just got a thumbs up at the mic there.
I forgot that this is just audio. Hi, I'm Han. I use he, they pronouns. Most of you listening probably know me because apparently I'm famous among your friend group. So this is an extra special one because I'm the coolest person alive, actually.
You are, in fact, the coolest person alive. And any regular listeners may remember that said sibling has been mentioned in at least 2 prior episodes.
What?
You can really tell you haven't listened to these.
I tried. They're long.
So, yeah, are you ready to tell us everything about MCR?
Yeah. So, I'm going to be talking about the band, the emo rock. Well, we'll get onto that later. They're not actually emo. The rock band, My Chemical Romance. Full disclaimer, little trigger warning in advance. There will be discussions of 9/11, terrorist attacks, drug use, suicide. I think that's it. It's going to get dark. This is your warning, because I'm just going to talk.
It's an emo band. Of course it's going to get dark.
Yeah, well, we will be debating that later.
Yes.
They're not. But
well, I'll get
onto that. I'm not going to start on that now because you have to have a lot of background knowledge first. So, we'll start with the members of the band. So it started off Gerard Way and Mikey Way. Right, they're brothers. Gerard Way is the older brother. Mikey Way is the younger. Yeah,
just like us.
Just like us. If you were the cool one that did stuff.
You're so mean to me.
So they all always liked music. Gerard Way in middle school, I think, played Peter Pan in like a school play. And that's where the love for music and performance came from. And then he went to art school. Hello. He went to art school because he wanted to like write comics, and that's his thing. He always liked music. Actually decided to go into music very later on, but started off wanting to be like a comic book writer and just an artist.
He wrote The Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, we'll get onto that later as well. I have a script. You told me to plan.
Your least favourite thing in all the world.
Yeah, full disclosure, this is going to be a mess. I feel like most of the other people, their neurodivergencies mean that they just can talk about one topic for ages. I have probably the most crippling ADHD that you've ever witnessed in a person. So we might need like 3 follow-up episodes just so I can finish whatever the hell I'm talking about, because I will be going on tangents and I will be distracted.
Well, the good news is I do not have enough people lined up to not do repeat appearances. So.
It was so hard choosing a topic. You don't understand. I was asking people I don't even know. I was asking people that I'd literally met like once in my life. I was like, what do I talk about? What am I interested in? And they were like, I don't know. Surely you know what you're interested in. And I was like, no.
You should indeed know yourself as a person.
No, I don't. But yeah, I have plenty of stuff to talk about.
You do indeed.
I just have to remember what it is first. Anyway.
You said you had a plan.
Where was I? This is what I mean. Where was I?
Middle school,
Peter Pan, went to art school, met Ray Toro. Okay? And they all became friends, and they all like music, and they all played together sometimes. I think they were briefly, Mikey Way and Ray Toro were briefly in a band called Nancy Drew, but that never really took off. They're all from New Jersey, by the way. That's like important somehow. Not important in anything that actually happens, but just they're extremely New Jersey.
New Jersey is the least important state.
I disagree, just because MCR are from there.
I'm going to fight anyone who says Delaware is the least important state.
I'm sorry, I know you were born there, but no one, except for knowing that you were born there, no one that you know will have any reason to know that it exists.
Well, Biden's from Delaware.
I didn't need to know that. It's gone from my brain already. What did you just say?
This is the kind of thing that gets cut out.
Hey, I said no cuts.
Oh, I'm cutting so much.
Already? What have I done?
Absolutely nothing. You're fine. Anyway,
if you didn't
they're from New
keep
Jersey.
distracting me, they're from New Jersey, and yeah, they're just vibes. They're just friends. They just play music and do art, and they're just silly little guys. And then Gerard Way is going to a meeting because he's got a job at like DC or something. He works for Cartoon Network briefly. He works for DC. He wrote Doom Patrol. Well, he co-wrote Doom Patrol.
Nice.
And he has a meeting at the World Trade Center. And he is stood outside the World Trade Center. I think he was meant to be on like the 42nd floor or something. That's a number in my mind. I might be wrong.
42, life, the universe, and everything.
Whoa! Illuminati. But yeah, he was with someone else that's important. I can't remember. But he has a meeting at the World Trade Center. He is outside, about to go in, and it blows up.
Yes.
You know, the first tower goes, and he's just stood there like, well, dude, this is like in a comic book, haha. And then everyone around him is crying, and he's like, oh no, everyone's sad, and that makes me sad. He wasn't sad that the building exploded that he was supposed to be in. He was like, oh no, the building exploded, and it made everyone sad. Aww. And that made him sad, instead of the fact that he could have died. Anyway, he was depressed anyway, but he got even more depressed after that, and he was like, he called up Mikey, and he called up Ray Toro, and he was like, hey bro, want to start a band and make a difference, because 9/11.
Of course.
And they did, and they started a band, and they called it My Chemical Romance. At the time, it was because of antidepressants, and then some comic book reference that I can't remember, but they decided on the name. And then later on, they were like, aha, this could be about drug addictions. They were all like recovering addicts later on. So they were like, oh, wow, it has a new meaning. How fun and sexy. Anyway, they signed with Eyeball Records because they met a band. They used to play like silly little underground shows in New Jersey. There's a big punk scene in New Jersey. They met a band called Thursday, who used to be big back in the early 2000s. They're irrelevant now entirely, but they used to be cool. So they meet the band Thursday, get introduced to Eyeball Records, get signed, and then they meet Frankie Iero, who originally was in a band called Pensy Prep. You don't need to know about that, but he was in another band. They met him, they liked him, he had good vibes, and so they joined. Someone I forgot to mention earlier, Matt Pellicier.
Okay.
Right, I'll get onto him in a minute. He was part of it. So Gerard Way is the lead vocalist. He can play guitar, but not well enough. Like, he couldn't play guitar and sing at the same time. So Ray Toro is the guitarist. Yeah. Frankie Iero is another guitarist. Mikey Way is the bassist. And Matt, we don't like Matt. Matt was the drummer. They release an album called what's the actual name of it? God, I just call it Bullets. I brought you my bullets, you brought me your love, commonly known as Bullets. They released that in 2001. It's very like punky, very heavy. It's more like, you can tell that they started in garages, and playing like actual underground, just like screaming, and then they recorded it and they were like, haha, funny. You can tell. But they released that because they got signed and everyone was like, whoa. Especially like the local scene, they got like huge in the local scene, and that's how they started. But on to Matt. Matt at the time was the drummer, and Gerard Way's grandma brought them their first van. Very cute, right? Like, grandma got them a van for like going to like shows and carrying around their equipment and everything. Got them their first van. That's like a big step in a band. Their first van for like carrying around their drums and stuff. And Matt set it on fire.
Why?
I don't know. To this day, I don't know, but he did. And so they kicked him off the band, obviously. But he was nuts. He was mean. He was terrible. So then they replaced him with Bob Brier, who we also hate. There's some curse in MCR with their drummers. They're never good. I don't know what's wrong with it. Their drummers always suck. Like, he was objectively, like, a good drummer, but a terrible person. At the time, we didn't know that. It's more recent. Well, I say recent. It was, like, 2013 that this happened. Basically, he just tweeted a bunch of racist stuff and
lovely.
Ended up being a terrible person.
Of course.
So at the time, we liked Bob. We hated Matt because Matt set the van on fire, and we were like, oh, yay, Bob, he's a good drummer. And then we look back and we're like, oh my god, he is a terrible person. And so he got kicked eventually, but, like, he's irrelevant.
Yeah.
When we talk about My Chemical Romance, the drummer is never relevant. Like,
the drummer is never relevant except for being a terrible person.
Yeah, the only people you need to know for the rest of this are Gerard Way. I might just call him G at some point, because he's G. Mikey Way, the brothers. Ray Toro, guitarist. And Frankie Aero. The 4 important ones. No one else matters. Absolutely no one else matters. But yeah, so the first album, I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love. The song on their Skylines and Turnstiles was the first song they ever actually, like, wrote as a band, and it was based entirely from 9/11. You can tell there's, like, very heavy themes. They make a lot of themed music. There was a lot of themes of 9/11 in the first album, because I think it was actually released in 2002. They first got signed and wrote it in 2001. So it was, like, recent.
Yeah.
But yeah, very vibey, very sad, but in, like, a screamy way. And then in 2003, they released 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, commonly just called Revenge, because they have very long album names, so they get shortened. And that's when they started to get big. So their first album was mainly, like, local scene. They got signed, like, musicians knew them.
Yeah.
Like, people in the scene, even, like, big musicians knew them, loved them, would listen to them, but the rest of the world was yet to discover them. So, like, they were being listened to by, like, Green Day and, like, the big bands at the time, but the common folk had no idea who they were. Because the only reason these musicians knew who they were is their record labels would be like, oh, you should check out these guys, like, oh, they're doing something new, like, ooh. Yeah. And they would, like, share the information. And so they got on, like, all of these opening tours because the bands themselves liked listening to the music. So they toured with Avenged Sevenfold, Green Day. They co-headlined Warped Tour, Little Emo Tour. They don't really do it in America, it's annoying. With Fall Out Boy. They actually did a collaboration. This all happened in 2003. They did a collaboration with a band called The Used. You don't know any of these people.
I have no idea who they are.
Very big in the 2000s. And they did a collaboration with The Used where they recorded, the song Under Pressure?
Yes.
Yeah, Bowie and Queen. So Bowie and Queen did the collaboration, and then Under Pressure came.
Yep.
And then MCR and The Used collaborating and did a cover of it. So it's just, like, lots of big, iconic, it's like, wow, the big bands from that time and then the big bands from now, wow.
Yeah.
Cultural revelation. They did a lot of stuff. They toured with a lot of people. I think at some point they toured with Muse, and they were just opening bands for a lot of people, and then everyone started to become, like, obsessed. But it was around this time that they really, like, Gerard Way especially, like, was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Like, they were all really struggling. Like, I think after 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, they released a documentary called Life on the Murder Scene, and they go into that a lot, and how, like, the music and touring and the fans and all that literally, like, saved their lives because they just didn't know what they were doing. But yeah, so they were big time struggling, and you can tell in the music, so it's already sad.
Yeah.
3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge is the first album is not necessarily themed or like a concept album, but you can tell that it was written like with 9/11 in mind, and it's got a strong genre,
Yeah.
right? And then the second album, you can tell they're getting a bit more artsy. Again, it's not a concept album. They've got some really cool music videos, and there is strong kind of gothic sad themes throughout, but there's not a huge story, if that makes sense. Not like I'm going to get onto it later.
There's theme but no plot.
Yeah, exactly. Fun little side note with the first one. The first album, Bullets, there's a song on it called "Honey, This Mirror Isn't Big Enough for the Two of Us," and in the documentary, Jedway talks about it, and in one of his shows there's a clip where he says, "This song is about sucking dick for cocaine," and then they play it, and then he talks about it in an interview, and he's like, "Yeah, that's like how we used to get money to go to like gigs and all that." Honey, This Mirror Isn't Big Enough for the Two of Us. I don't know if I can talk about this without it getting explicit, and also you are not going to know what I mean at all, and I don't know if any of your friends will enjoy this content. Basically, when you do certain illicit substances, i.e. one that is the opposite of Pepsi, normally you're in a bathroom, and normally you do it, you have the little off of a mirror. Because it's a clean, flat surface. I don't know why. Mirror is just kind of the go-to choice. Now people probably do it off their phone screens, but at the time, you'd use like a little mirror, and you would like line it up and mirror. And so that's where the song title, "This Mirror Isn't Big Enough for the Two of Us," is because they were doing illicit substances and sucking certain body parts to get this money to make the album. On this mirror in a little bathroom, and that's where the song comes from. Sorry, that was strange, but it was a little, I don't know. Also on that, and another little side note, I just know little fun facts about the songs. They have no thing to the plot, but just before I forget to include them entirely, there's a song on the first album called "Drowning Lessons" that they don't play live anymore because it's cursed.
Oh,
every time they used to play it all the time, because it's like a really good song. I highly recommend. They used to play it all the time. Every time they did, there would be like technical difficulties, like lights would fall on people, like someone in the crowd would like have a seat, like they would always have some kind of problem every time they played it live. So they just don't anymore. And like even to this day, like I went to go see them last year. This last year. They did the reunion tour literally like 10 years later, and they still wouldn't play it. Yeah, because it's cursed. So they have a cursed song, and I just think that's funny.
Well, every good arts discipline has a cursed thing.
Exactly.
Like, they have a cursed song. The theatre has the Scottish play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So the next album is called "Welcome to the Black Parade."
This is the one everybody's heard of.
This is the one everyone has heard of. This is the one with the iconic... Well, the album is actually called The Black Parade. Yeah. The song, which is the main root of the album, is called "Welcome to the Black Parade." The album itself, The Black Parade. And this one everyone knows. There's that one G note. Yeah. You play it on a piano, or like you hear it on the song and everyone just starts crying. Knows it. You can go into a room of like emos, and you could go, our sick form, you could go and play that note. Yeah. Everyone in the room would start crying. It's that one. It has such a hold on our generation. Even people that weren't like super fans, that just the cultural implication, because you're supposed to be upset when you hear that note. You never even really listen to them. No, if I was to play that note, because you know me, you'd be like, I'm supposed to be sad. This is culturally relevant. This means something. Yeah,
like, even though I have never really listened to them, I've heard that song enough that if someone plays
from me
through the bedroom wall, that, like, even if I press on that note on its own, I'm like, oh, this is the beginning of that
Yeah.
song. I don't even know how to play that song.
You've never even listened to that song yourself, probably. You've just heard it from me.
Yeah.
But that album is what I would consider their first concept album. This had a clear plot. You watch the music videos consecutively, and it is literally like watching a movie. Like all of the other albums, you should listen to them in order, but like you don't have to. This is the first one where you have to listen to it in order. All the songs are good on their own, but it tells a story, like start to finish. There is a clear narrative. They've thought this through. Every word means something. Like, it's artful. I feel like you might not like this genre of music, but as a Englishy person, I mean that the subject, not just you are English, because you're not. But it's got like a clear narrative. It's like it's literally like poetry. It's like a poetry saga.
Yeah.
And the concept of this album is a man dying of cancer and his journey through life, dying, death, and then the afterlife.
Yeah.
And so it's him coming to terms with that, and then dying.
Yeah.
And then, whatever. So the song Welcome to the Black Parade, the kind of imagery of the concept of the Black Parade is that it's this, like, carnival type thing they, like, go through, and all of the people that die join the Black Parade and march into the afterlife.
Yeah.
And so all of the songs before... So it's the 5th song on the album. All of the songs before that are talking about dying.
Yeah.
So the first song's called The End, which I think is quite ironic because it's the first song and it's called The End.
Well done. You have achieved
critical thinking.
Step 1.
Critical thinking skills.
English lit degree skills.
It's funny because I can't even read. And then the second, but canonically, the dude is not dead yet.
No.
This Is How I Disappear, The Sharpest Lives. So it's just talking about all of these songs. The kind of imagery of it is this person is dying, how it's affecting other people. Welcome to the Black Parade is reminiscing on life and getting to grips with the concept of dying and being okay with it.
Yeah.
And effects on like family members and all of that. Then it goes on to a song which I really like passive aggressively playing to people when I have arguments with them, called I Don't Love You. And it's a good like breakup song, but if you listen to it in context of the album, it's like, because this dude is dying, his loved ones can't and don't love him the same as they did before.
Yeah.
Because I think technically, like, it's kind of ambiguous, the whole thing, I'm trying to remember it. But even before the person has died, you can't love them as much as you had previously for fear of getting hurt. So you kind of pull back a bit.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that concept. There's a song straight up called Cancer. So sad. Do you remember the band 21 Pilots?
Yes.
They did a cover of Cancer. Terrible. Terrible. It was supposed to be this big, like, emo cultural moment. 21 Pilots, the big emo band, doing a cover of a My Chemical Romance song. Wow. And they messed it up. That was 21 Pilots' decline. That was their decline, I think.
Haven't they come back now?
No.
No, that was someone else.
No, they're still releasing music.
Oh.
They never stopped releasing music, but it sucks.
I might be thinking of someone else.
They became over-commercialised. They changed their entire genre just to get more listens, which, like, fair, get the money, but they used to be good. Also, I think Tyler Joseph, the, like, singer, I think he's, like, racist. I think he voted Trump.
Ew.
Yeah, which is weird. Like, I know they're Christian, which is weird, because I never thought of them like that, but, like, I don't know, they're a bit dodgy. I'm not the biggest fan of them anymore. Anyway, whole album talking about death, going through death, the music videos, incredible, like, pretty much all of it is in, like, black and white, and there's these strong allegories of like these characters. Like one of them represents fear, one of them is like literally like angel of death or something that like guides them through the whole thing. There's all of these characters, and it's just really cool. That was their first like concept album, and they have the whole, because the Black Parade is like a marching band.
Yeah.
The whole aesthetic of the whole thing. When they did this tour, they would all wear, you know, like American high school marching band uniforms with like the little stripes and the buttons and the...
I know what you mean, which is funny because I've never been to an American high school.
Neither, but I don't know. You know what I mean? That's like that whole aesthetic.
I do,
and it's really cool. And then during that tour, there was a massive thing in Mexico where a lot of the emo fans were being attacked for being emo, and there was a bunch of homophobia reasons, basically. But yeah, they were basically getting attacked because they thought, wow, emo must be gay, haha, I'm gonna beat you up. And then on this tour, MCR basically, I can't quote it exactly, but they gave like this big speech and they were like, stop it. Because it wasn't just people that weren't emo beating up the emos. It was emos beating up the emos that looked more gay than these emos. It was like the kind of hardcore punk metalhead fans who were there from the New Jersey beginnings beating up the newer, younger fans who liked the more artsy stuff.
Yeah.
Because they were more effeminate emos. Therefore, they must be gay, so they beat them up at the shows and called them slurs. And MCR was basically like, hey, stop that. Like,
as they should.
What? What are you doing? And they gave some big speech about like anti-violence, and they were always very, very vocal about like anti-homophobia and all of that stuff. So like, we stand, they slayed. But yeah, there were lots of just attacks on emos during this time when this album was released, just specifically in Mexico and Mexico City. Just emos were just getting attacked everywhere. It was strange. Like, that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
Like, it was just this time in like 2006, I think. Like, insane. Anyway, I digress. I need to get through the whole history of this band soon. The next album, in my opinion, a lot of people disagree. A lot of people don't like this album, which I don't know why. Because in my opinion, it is the best concept album ever created. Like, The Black Parade might be more of like an emo album, more metal, better music, and it's a really good concept, but just the history and the lore of the Danger Days album. The next one is called Danger Days.
I gathered, yes.
It's just so insanely detailed. So the album is called Danger Days, The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys. And it follows the story of the Killjoys. So in this, Jared Way, Mikey Way, Frankie Iero, and Ray Todd, they're the Killjoys, that's their characters.
Yeah.
There's Party Poison, Cobra Kid, Jetstar, what's the other one? I'm really dumb. I can't remember the other one. I'm sure I'll remember it in like 5 hours and make you add it in. But
I will be asleep.
So earlier I mentioned that Jared Way was obsessed with like comic books, right?
Yes.
He like was always been obsessed with comic books since day one. Worked as a comic book writer, wrote his own comic books. So he actually wrote comic books of the true lives of the Fabulous Killjoys. Like there are comic books out there of this storyline, and they created this album where start to finish describes this whole story.
Yeah.
Like, this is, I know I said you had to listen to the last one in order. This one you have to listen to it in order, because I'm not gonna lie, most of the songs just straight up will not make sense unless you listen to it in order. And they also like deliberately added in these like really cool fades. So there's a lot of like weird little clips as well. So the album starts with this like weird deep animatronic voice and look alive, sunshine, 109 in the stand, the pigs won't quit. It's me, Dr. Death Defying. I'll be your surgeon, your proctor, your helicopter. That would not make any sense on its own, right?
Absolutely not.
And it's like 30 seconds long, and it's bumping out the Slaughtermatic sounds to keep you alive. And it's just this weird clip of this dude talking, but then it fades into the first, like, song of the album.
Yeah.
And it's the crossover between the songs that is what means you have to listen to it in order, because they add so much to it. Like, I, for years, had just been listening to these songs. Like, the one, even you would know the na-na-na-na-na.
Oh, yes.
Everyone knows that one. Everyone knows Teenage. Like, everyone knows a lot of songs from here. But until you listen to it, like, start to finish in order, one go, you do not appreciate it in the same way. But the story of this album is basically, it's like a post-apocalyptic universe, right?
Yeah.
And the Killjoys are essentially like anti-heroes fighting against, like, the man.
Yeah.
And it's all, like, metaphorical, and it's got, like, strong, like, anti-capitalism, like, you know, all of that. So if you watch the videos, it's strong, like, anti-corporate, because the reason for the apocalypse, I think, is basically some, like, corporation.
Which, you know, in real life, that will be the cause of the apocalypse.
Yeah. And so it's the Killjoys basically going through this post-apocalyptic world, getting people to join their cause, and their cause is basically fighting this evil corporation. And there's just strong themes throughout it of, like, anti-capitalism, like, it's a lot of people, especially, like, high up political people, actually called this album out for being propaganda.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh, it's anti-capitalist propaganda. Oh, they're recruiting people to their evil, satanic, Satan-worshipping emo cause. And they literally had to release a statement and be like, bro, it's just a song. Like, chill out. Like, chill out. We are not recruiting anyone for a mass revolution, although thanks for the idea. But it like, was insanely influential to the point where politicians were literally like, we're scared because this is propaganda. But it's so good. It's so good. I highly recommend watching all of the music videos in order. Not just listening to the song, but, like, the music videos. Because they did the music videos so that it literally makes, like, a movie.
Oh, nice.
Like, it literally is a movie with, like, a cool soundtrack. But yeah, it is cool. It's my favourite one, and no one likes it. Like, I was literally waiting in line for the MCR concert, and people were like, oh, what songs are you, like, excited to hear? And I would list songs from this album, like Destroyer, one of the best songs ever created, in my opinion. Planetary Go. I was like, these are the ones where they're not as, like, emo, they're not as rocky. There's definitely elements of, like, pop in this album, but they're a lot more upbeat. And, like, you could easily play them in a club, I think, and they would, like, go off. No one would like them because people like terrible music these days. But, like, they would go off. They would be slaying in a club. And everyone was like, you like Danger Days? And I was like, yes. Yes, I do.
Like what you like. Don't listen to the haters.
Yeah, exactly. I'm blocking out the haters. You need to do... people aren't getting my humour in this podcast because you don't film it. They need to see my funny little hand action. Like, the you know, you remember the kid with the glasses? I'm just blocking out the haters. That was it. Do you know what I mean? You were never on Vine.
I was never on Vine.
So boring.
I was internet illiterate until the age of 16. Continue. You were talking about Danger Days and how everyone hates it. Except you.
Oh, like, it's good, but it's a different genre. So, like, it's not as, I don't know, rocky. But I still like it because I just think it's fun and it makes my little ADHD brain go like brrr, brrr. I can't do the brrr, I can't vibrate my lips because my piercing.
I can't either, and it's a problem.
I used to be able to, and then I got it pierced, and now it doesn't.
For languages purposes.
But I would attempt to demonstrate again, but I've been forbidden from making weird mouth noises near the mic. You have been forbidden from making weird mouth noises near the mic. Thank you for remembering. Please don't do that. You could see the look she just gave me. Wow, I'm scared for my life. I'm scared for my life.
Continue with your history of MCR.
Strong themes of anti-capitalism, escaping death, because the dude from the start it's Look Alive, Sunshine, and the guy talking is Mr. Death. And then actually it's the second to last track. It's called Goodnight, Mr. Death. And it's really fun. The reason why it was called Propaganda, actually, is they play the national anthem, they play the American national anthem, and then it gets all like radio distorted, and that's how the album fades out.
Yeah.
It's the American national anthem, it gets all radio staticky, and you hear like explosions, I guess.
Yeah.
And just like apocalypse noises in general. And that's how the album fades out.
Yeah.
So I think you'd like it, actually. It's quite good. Yeah. And then that was like one of their last like proper albums. They released like a bunch of EPs. So they released what's it called? Where is it? The Mad Gear and the Missile Kid EP. No one knows about this. No one knows about this because it was never like released, you know?
Oh.
You have to like find it on like weird corners of the internet.
Which of course you know all about.
Yeah, it's like borderline impossible to find, and like it's not part of their like discography. But there's only 3 songs on this EP, right, released in 2010, right before they broke up. And there's a song called FTWWW. I can't remember what it stands for. I haven't listened to that in so long. I can't remember what it stands for. Masters, spelled, like Rasta.
Yeah.
They spell masters, like mastas, like MASTAS.
Yeah.
And that's how they say masters. Of Ravencroft. And then Black Dragon Fighting Society. Like, they're all just, like, silly little weird... I don't know, they were just like, here you go.
Those last 2 sound like D&D campaign titles.
Yeah, well, they play a lot of D&D. They're such little nerds.
I love that for them.
They are such little nerds.
I miss D&D.
I never actually really played it. We should. I feel like I'd be amazing at it. Anyway, and then they released a bunch of single... I just did air quotes, single albums. But they released 5 and they had 2 songs each. So it's not really a single, because when you release a single...
That's just one song.
It's one song. But it's not an EP. But they call it single, I don't know. But it's called The Conventional Weapons. Right? So it's a collection of 5 mini albums with 2 songs each. Right? And so number 1 has a picture of like a pistol on it. Like just like a little handgun. And on that is Boy Division and Tomorrow's Money. Boy Division... one of the best songs ever. Love it. They played it at the live show that I went to. And then I find this quite funny, actually. The second one they did, this was all in 2012. The second one they did is just called Number 2. They're all just named after numbers. And it's got a picture of like a little knife, like a little dagger.
Yeah.
And it's got the song Ambulance and Gun. And I find it quite funny because the album with the picture of the gun on the front wasn't the one that had the song called Gun.
That is very ironic.
I'm pretty sure they did that on purpose. But
of course.
Number 3, picture of like a big AK big machine gunny, not machine gun, but like like a automatic. Like big gun. Has 2 of the most depressing songs ever listened to. The World is Ugly and The Light Behind Your Eyes. And it's the first one, The World is Ugly. One of the lyrics is, "The world is ugly, but you're beautiful to me."
Aww.
It hits hard. And then the next one is like, "Never let them take the light behind your eyes." Not talking about like dying, talking about like, never let them take who you are.
Yeah.
And then number 4, Kiss the Ring, Make Room. Make Room, such good energy. They played that when I saw them live as well. It's like so like, and that one has a picture of 2 axes crossed.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. And then the last one, number 5, is a picture of a grenade, and it's Surrender the Night and Burn Bright. They're just kind of fun, silly. They're good songs. People don't really listen to them as much. And then they broke up.
Lovely.
They broke up in 2013.
All the best bands do.
Yeah. So everyone thinks it's because Bob was not nice, because he wasn't nice. But the official statement is basically like, it's nothing to do with any of the band members fighting. We are just sad, and we want to not be sad.
Yeah.
So we're going to go off and do our own things and try and be happy.
Which is fair.
Which, very fair. And in hindsight, respect the hell out of them for that.
Yeah.
But at the time, imagine a mass group of emos with their only, like, source of happiness deciding to break up, like, was not good.
I remember when One Direction broke.
Oh my god, Cut Zayn.
How long ago was that?
The thing is, that didn't happen with MCR. There wasn't a mass trend of people mutilating themselves because they broke up. But then one member leaves One Direction and everyone's like, oh my god, I'm going to cut myself and then he'll go back.
No.
It does not work like that.
It does not work like that at all. Be sensible, please, people.
That is as brief as I can really make the main history. That's your background knowledge.
Okay. Well, we finished our history, so what's next?
So you've got all of the background knowledge that you could possibly need. It's not the extensive. I've just kind of briefly gone over all the albums, who the members are, a little bit of the history, right? So you just as much background knowledge as you really need. And now I'm just going to talk about the fun things. The silly things you see on the internet, and you know, they're just fun.
There's a lot of silly things about MCR on the internet.
Yeah, there's a
some of them even I've seen.
Wow. So the main one is how 9/11 caused 50 Shades of Grey.
Yes.
It's like a big old butterfly effect. And the reason I'm talking about this, it does involve MCR. They're part of this. So, 9/11 happens, obviously. And as I talked about earlier, the reason for the start of the band is that Gerard Way almost died because he was meant to be in the building when that happened. And it obviously really affected him. And that's what pushed him to get back in contact with all of his old friends and start making music to try and make it. He wanted to make this concept album to talk about 9/11, express all of these emotions he had. Yes. So 9/11 caused MCR to form a band. MCR would not have happened had it not been for 9/11. Because he would have just kept making his silly little comics and been sad and all of that stuff. And then, so MCR is a band, right?
Yes.
The second album, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, I think I said in the explanation, it's kind of like gothic, depressing, lots of like vampire imagery.
Yeah.
And this inspires a certain Stephanie Myers to write a certain fanfiction about MCR, wherein Gerard Way is a vampire, right? And it's kind of like a self-insert thing.
Yeah.
So she writes this fan fiction, which then over time it's a massively well-read fan fiction. Like, people were obsessed with it, and that's why it evolved into what we now call the Twilight series.
Oh dear.
So she was obsessed with MCR. She was a mega fan. She based an entire book series and made millions just because she was a little MCR stan. And then...
Was Stephanie Myers also neurodivergent? Discuss.
Definitely. Like, I don't think there is a single mentally healthy neurotypical person who listens to MCR that much.
No.
Like, I don't think a single one of their so their fan base exclusively is the queers and the neurodivergents. You have to be at least gay, almost definitely trans. Most of their listeners are trans, or at least like a bit confused about it. You have to be at least gay.
Oh, is everybody not a little bit confused by gender?
It's just a confusing concept. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
It really doesn't.
Just why? Just can it not exist, please? It'd be so much easier.
Yes.
Anyway, you have to be part of the LGBTQ plus community,
Yes.
you have to be mentally ill, obviously, because no one's listening to music that sad unless there's something wrong with them. You also have to be neurodivergent, because silly songs make your brain go like, ee!
Yes.
It's very fun. It's very like stimmy music. That's why I always like, because you sit there and you're like, bah, 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 bah. That probably made no sense. It makes sense to me.
To someone in the world, that will make perfect sense.
Yeah, someone listening will find comfort in my weird rambling. Yeah, Stephenie Meyers, no way she's normal. One of my friends, actually, I'm convinced she has ADHD, right? Because she asked me about it. She asked me about it, and we were going over the symptoms, and she was like, And now she's like in such hardcore denial. She just does not want to accept it. She's just like, no. And she started calling it, I'm like, hun, she'll do something. I'm like, hun, that's a neurodivergent thing. And she's like, no, I'm neuronormal. She keeps not using the word neurotypical. And she keeps just calling herself neuronormal. I just found that so funny. She's like, I'm neuronormal. I promise I'm neuronormal. There's nothing wrong with me. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with you, babe. You just got ADHD. Yeah, neuronormal. I'm hoping that catches on.
I think that's a much better word than neurotypical.
Neurotypical is that who clearly a neurodivergent person did not come up with that.
No.
Because neurodivergent and neurotypical are the hardest words to say.
Well, neurodivergent was coined by neurodivergent people, but neurotypical, I don't know.
I just don't like
they
the
sound
words.
really scientific.
Yeah, I just don't like them. They just don't flow off the tongue very easily. Whereas neuronormal,
it's alliterative.
Genius.
I can appreciate some good alliteration. But
Stephenie Meyers, not neuronormal.
Absolutely not.
That's extra alliteration. Not neuronormal.
Love it. There is also the fact that early fandom into not modern fandom, but like 2010s fandom. Anyone involved in fandom in those eras was autistic or ADHD.
Oh yeah. We're talking about me and you, right?
Oh yeah. Because like the legal hoops you had to jump through to make that kind of activity legal.
Right, were you question time, sibling question time?
Oh god.
Were you a Wattpad fanfiction reader, a Tumblr fanfiction reader, or an AO3 AO3 fanfiction reader?
Originally, none of the above. You've missed one.
I remember now. You were a fanfiction.net enjoyer.
I was.
To the point, right, I'm calling you out in front of all of your friends.
Oh, no.
To the point. She used to read fanfiction on fanfiction.net, the website.
I got it banned on the home Wi-Fi.
Our dad banned the website from use on the Wi-Fi network.
Yeah.
To the point one of my friends came over, tried to find a fanfiction, couldn't, because it had been banned, it had been blocked. You couldn't access it, not even just on her phone, on the Wi-Fi system.
And that was when I went to AO3.
And that's when you went to AO3.
The ways we get around the parent.
Christ, that should be a whole other episode.
Oh yeah. That was what I thought you were going to do tonight.
No, that's a whole other episode. I'm only halfway through this pipeline. So I can't remember who wrote it, but 50 Shades of Grey.
E.L. James. She went to my old uni.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
In the history department.
Wow.
Yeah, it's our greatest shame.
We went to the same sixth form, right?
Yeah.
Can we dox ourselves because we don't go there anymore?
No.
We can't?
No. I don't want people to find me.
Okay. Even though you don't go there? Okay.
Anyway, E.L. James writes 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, as Twilight fanfiction.
I did know that.
Yeah.
I have not read it.
50 Shades of Grey was Twilight fanfiction. Twilight was MCR fanfiction. MCR formed purely because of 9/11.
Yeah.
Therefore, 9/11 caused 50 Shades of Grey to come into existence. And I would argue the negative effects that 50 Shades of Grey has had on society and feminism as a whole, because you now have 12-year-olds thinking that they have to enjoy being beaten up during sex, or they are boring.
Yeah.
So I think that 9/11 has directly derailed the feminist sex positive movement.
Yeah.
Just entirely. And I blame 9/11 for that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
have you heard the Lord Byron to 50 Shades of Grey pipeline?
What?
It's the same pipeline, but with some stuff added on beforehand.
What's the stuff adding on beforehand?
So, Lord Byron has like a retreat in the Alps that he has a lot of writer friends go to, including Mary Shelley.
Oh yeah, Frankenstein.
Yeah, which kickstarts the sci-fi genre and like gothic horror.
Yeah.
Bram Stoker then writes Dracula, which is in the same genre, which has been popularised by Frankenstein, which has vampires in it.
Twilight.
Yeah.
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 So there's two potential causes.
There is also the fact that Lord Byron's daughter, Ada Lovelace, wrote the first programming language, which is why we have computers, which without her, the World Trade Center wouldn't exist because there wouldn't be any computers. So there's two.
And they interlink.
Wow.
Because I would argue that have you ever seen Twilight?
I've seen the last movie and none of the others.
My housemate recently made me watch every single one of them.
Oh, God.
We have a board game now, actually. Anyway, I would argue that having read, like, Dracula and Frankenstein and all that, and having watched Twilight, I don't think Stephenie Meyers took any kind of inspiration from any kind of gothic horror literature whatsoever. So I would argue that pipeline is null and void, and my one is correct.
Yes.
So I have evidence.
Yeah.
Mine has been confirmed.
When you say you read Dracula, are you a novel Dracula reader or a Dracula Daily Dracula reader? You were not on Tumblr last year.
No, I haven't been on Tumblr since like 2016.
Someone on Substack, which is a like newsletter publishing thing, decided that he was, because Dracula is public domain, he decided he was going to send out Dracula as written as a series of diary entries and letters and newspaper articles. So he decided that, and they're all dated.
Right.
So he decided that on every day that is mentioned in the book, he was going to send out that bit of the book. So like, if there's a newspaper article dated like the 4th of March, he'd send a transcript of that newspaper article on the 4th of March via email as a newsletter to everyone. So last summer...
That's cool.
Yeah. Last year, people on Tumblr got hold of this. We had a Dracula renaissance via Tumblr. It was great. Wow. So I've read it through that.
I don't really remember reading the book, but I've read the book.
Mina Harker.
I've read the book at some point.
Top tier woman.
I am aware of the fact that I read the book, however, I don't really remember anything that happens in the book.
We read a version of the play in Year 8.
Maybe that was it.
And it's not a very good adaptation.
Right.
I recommend. But they're going to do it now every year, because the first year was so popular. So if you're signed up to the mailing list, we'll just start again.
Maybe I'll do that, and then I'll just get to short form read Dracula.
Yeah, this is why people are doing it, because it's really easy, because it's like short form. You get like 500 words a day maximum.
Yeah.
And there's like one really long update, but like other than that. But yeah, and you get it all in little bite-sized chunks.
That's good.
And it's people were reading it for the first time and realising that, hang on, there is a male character with PTSD in this and is, like, visibly impacted by it.
Wow.
In the text.
Fun
and his
fact.
wife is the one who is all, like, gung-ho, we're going to kill Dracula.
Fun fact,
to
men
begin with.
can have mental illnesses too.
Yeah, I know, but Hannah, this was published in Victorian Britain.
Oh my god, wow.
This can all get cut as well, to be honest. But anyway, Dracula Daily, highly recommend, sign up for it. I can send you the link.
Cool.
But now it's had like a surge in popularity for people on Substack doing daily updates on novels, even ones that were not written as like epistolary novels, which is kind of annoying me. Like, I don't like. Just because Dracula can be done like that doesn't mean you can do Les Mis like that.
Yeah.
Or
because Dracula was written in letter
Moby
form.
Dick you can sort of get away with because it's sort of diary-ish, it's first person, but like Les Mis you can't.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, so yeah, that's
to
the
get back onto
We're now over an hour,
MCR
but that's fine.
tangented stuff.
Yes.
So Stephenie Meyer, obviously obsessed with MCR, wrote Twilight about MCR, originated as a fan fiction.
Yes.
So when the movies were being created, she asked Gerard Way, frontman of My Chemical Romance, to play Edward. Because obviously in the fan fiction, that's who she was picturing. That's who she based it off. So she reached out and she was like, hey bro, these really famous books we're making a movie of. Do you want to play the main character? And he was like, hell no. And she was like, would you maybe want to do the soundtrack? Would you want to record an album? Bearing in mind, when this happened, they were broken up.
Yeah.
Like, the band was not really existing anymore when these movies were being released. So he was obviously like, no, I don't want to do an album for Twilight. That would suck, actually.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even do a song. However, one of my favourite things to come out of the band is how petty they are. So, directly in response of refusing to partake and contribute to Twilight, they join a children's TV series called Yo Gabba Gabba, and they release a Christmas special. They release a Christmas single called Every Snowflake is Different.
Aww.
And it literally goes like, every snowflake's different, just like you. And they dress up the Yo Gabba Gabba. It's, imagine like an American version of Mr. Blobby crossed with the Teletubbies.
That's horrifying.
Crossed with like the Wiggles.
Because Mr. Blobby's horrifying anyway.
Yeah, it's like Mr. Blobby shaped characters. If you took the Teletubbies and shaped them into Mr. Blobby, and then made them like sing and behave like the Wiggles.
Well, that's going to haunt my nightmares.
That's Yo Gabba Gabba. And now imagine this emo rock band, right?
Yeah.
That they're known for doing like dark and depressing, you know, kind of stuff about drug addiction and 9/11 and people dying and come to terms with the afterlife. They do a Christmas special where they talk about snowflakes being different and how it's okay to be different.
Aww.
And it's the cutest thing, and it's so silly, and they just look so happy while they're doing it because they know somewhere out there Stephenie Meyers is watching this and just fuming that they would agree to do this messed up, silly, cursed, cracked little children's TV show. They would do a song for that. In fact, I think they did a whole Christmas album. They did a cover of Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You. They did a cover of that. They did a bunch of Christmas covers, plus a very special song just created for this. There's a music video as well. It's amazing. And somewhere out there, Stephenie Meyers is sat there fuming that the entire franchise that she created based on this band, and they wouldn't contribute. I just love that, because they look so happy when they're performing it, because they're just like, we know this is making them mad.
We love it when the bands are happy.
Yeah. So that's one of my favourite things I've done. Another favourite thing of mine is they went to war with Hannah Montana.
So you mentioned this.
Yeah.
And I am fascinated by this concept.
Basically, right before they released one of their albums, Miley Cyrus, as Hannah Montana at the time, because it was Disney. Yeah. This was early 2000s, very early on. Right before they were about to release one of their albums, Miley Cyrus released a Hannah Montana one the same day, and she overtook them on the charts. And so they just they were beefing for a while. I don't know exactly what happened, but she basically slagged them off on the news, on the American news. She basically called them a cult, called them anti-American, and just chatted the most bollocks about them. Just, So in response, Frank Iero, the guitarist, who at this point had kids, told his kids that Hannah Montana dies in the TV series.
Oh,
he told his very young children who were obsessed with Hannah Montana at the time that Miley Cyrus in the TV show, well, he said in real life, but they, he meant in the TV show, but because they were kids, they thought it was real life because they're dumb. He said that a stage light fell on Miley Cyrus and killed her.
Oh my god.
And then, banned them listening to Hannah Montana in the house. And so that was his response, is he, went on, the news and was like, yeah, I told my kids this because she's horrible. And they've just been, at war. This all happened, I don't think they ever actually spoke to each other, Miley Cyrus and MCR, they never actually met. This all happened just, through news articles and tweets and MySpace posts. And
this is the best way to have a feud, though. When you never actually see each other face to face.
Yeah, right?
And, that's a great top tip for your kids. If your kids are getting really annoying, just tell them that Santa's dead. Had a reindeer crash last Christmas. He's not coming back this year.
No, choose maybe not Santa, but choose a celebrity they're obsessed with. If they get too annoyingly obsessed with them, maybe. So if I doubt if I have kids, they're gonna love One Direction because they don't really exist anymore. But had I had kids when One Direction were a thing, and they were annoyingly obsessed, and I was getting sick of it, I would have just told them they died and then got rid of all the CDs.
Yeah.
And then what's gonna happen?
Kids are stupid, so they'll forget about it
in a few weeks, and they'll be fine. But you got to time it right, because you don't know if you've got a kid that might do the cut the Zayn trend. You've got to be careful with that.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
Yeah,
when all the little kids are on TikTok. When they shouldn't be.
God, no. There should be an age limit on TikTok.
There is an age limit on TikTok.
It's 13, isn't it?
Yeah, but they don't check.
They do not check. So I'm a big fan of TikTok. I love my short form media. It's very stimmy, it's very fun, very good jokes. But I do think it should be more regulated in terms of what content. 'Cause I'm not going to lie, I've seen entire genitals on there, and the video hasn't been removed somehow.
See, I get all my TikTok videos peer reviewed by Tumblr or by friends.
Jesus. But anyway.
And quite often they end up as Instagram reels anyway, so.
Yeah. Going from
Miley Cyrus feud,
Frankie Iero telling his kids that she died, onto something a little bit more sad. However, I find it quite funny, but it is quite depressing. So someone called Hannah Bond, right, in early 2000s, who was a fan of MCR, was an emo kid, very depressed, killed herself. Not for any reason related to the band, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
She was a fan of the band, very depressed, as most of their fans are.
Yeah.
Killed herself because she was mentally ill. And the Daily Mail, I think I mentioned this to you earlier, the Daily Mail chose to blame MCR for her dying. And basically said, they are a satanic cult who are forcing our children to suicide by convincing them to sacrifice themselves to the devil, and basically blamed them for making music so sad and depressing that it was driving teenagers to kill themselves.
Lovely. Not surprised that came from the Daily Mail at all.
Which, it was entirely incorrect. The girl's family came out and they were like, nothing like that. She was mentally ill. She was sad. She liked the band, but if anything, they helped her.
Yeah.
And it just became a massive thing. Where MCR were doing interviews and they were like, what would we have done? We had no, we have an influence or whatever. And then it became a meme.
As all things
they
do
were at war with the Daily Mail, and they would, at their shows, their gigs, sold out. I think they did it at Reading. They would just get people chanting the Daily Mail, the Daily Mail. You're gonna have to bleep that.
I am going to bleep that, but it's okay.
Screw the Daily Mail, screw the Daily Mail. Just chanting this for hours at their gigs, and it's just kind of a moment. Yeah.
And how did this migrate into the Daily Mail becoming the Daily Fail?
Well, just because it sucked, they said a bunch of bad things about a very beloved band by an entire generation. Said generation hated the Daily Mail and just memed it,
and called it the Daily Fail.
Yeah, and it just kind of spiraled and became the Daily Fail because it be failing.
It do be failing.
It do be failing.
We had a maths task when I was in secondary school where we had to do some kind of like statistics type study on how many times the Daily Mail incorrectly said that something caused cancer.
Oh, Jesus.
Very, very mid to late 2000s type maths thing to do. But anyway, yeah.
I think
we hate the Daily Mail.
We do hate the Daily Mail. We really do hate the Daily Mail.
You know that things are bad when the Daily Mail is criticising the Tory government.
Oh God, yeah.
Which has happened recently.
Really?
Like
what?
Since Rishi Sunak's been in government. Yeah.
Wow.
They criticised Boris before he resigned too. And Liz
Truss.
Truss.
That's not surprising.
They jumped on the Liz Truss and the lettuce thing as well. Love that. The lettuce should be the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It really should be. I think that's all I have to say.
Nice.
I mean, I'll probably think of more later that I'll be like, oh, I should have said that. But...
well, then you can just come on again.
Yeah. I mean, that's most of the history and all that I know about the Fun Things, unless you want me to go on to talking about all of their solo work from when they broke up.
That can be another episode.
That can be another episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that covers it.
Yeah.
Oh, you said I had to do an outro.
That'll do, to be honest.
What is an outro? Thanks for listening to me ramble, guys. I hope it was somewhat interesting. Like and subscribe.
We're not on YouTube.
Do you want people to like and subscribe to the podcast?
I don't know if there's a way to do that really on Spotify. You can subscribe on Spotify.
Yeah.
Because I've done that.
I think you can like it.
I've subscribed to my own podcast on Spotify.
Oh, that's sad. How many followers do you have?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
It's going to be 1.
It's going to be me. I looked at the analytics. I looked at the analytics like a week ago, and it said we had a listener in Denmark, and I got all excited, and then realised that was me with my VPN on.
It won't show me how many subscribers you have.
No, because it's just me.
Now it's me as well.
Aww.
How cute. You guys should all go and do the same so that we don't hate ourselves and want to die. That's it. I'm guilt tripping you. If you don't go and follow this playlist and figure out how to like and then like the episodes, we are both going to be very depressed and name check you in our suicide notes and then get the Daily Mail to blame you for our deaths. So,
oh dear.
Do it. Make us famous.
Yeah, and Ham does not make idle threats. So
yeah,
as proven by the several times that you have committed bodily harm against me.
Against you, I think you're calling me out. No, I don't make idle threats. Our mum once paid for an entire holiday to Prague just so I wouldn't kill myself. So.
And it was the best holiday we've ever had.
Oh, that's a cracked podcast, man. Have fun editing.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you've made it all the way to the end, congrats! You are officially much stronger than half of our friends. If you are enjoying listening to this podcast, please subscribe to get notified when we update, or follow us on Tumblr at HeyILike, all lowercase. That's all for now. See you next time on Hey, I Like.